And it's an exciting, exhilarating sweeper. They're off. Bright's made a great start there. He's in front of Ambrose, and charging through from third position was Greg Murphy. He may even get to second, although Ambrose might have enough car on him as they go into it. No, Murphy gets the line on that left-hander through into the S and takes second place. So a poor start for Marcus Ambrose. Radicic sits back and watches the action, and his teammate Max Wilson not too far behind him, with Stephen Richards up there as well.
Great job, Greg Murphy, to jump away, and you can see that light sprinkle on the lens of the camera as they head down the back straight in lap one. Cold tyres, looking for a dry braking approach for the first time in a couple of days, and Ambrose will be kicking himself after having that advantage for track position right at the very start, only for it to frit away in the first couple of 100 metres. And Murphy, a bolter, and he was well positioned for turn two, and one of the Castrol cars, either Dumbrell or Longhurst, out wide in the grass on the exit of turn 5.
Scaife was also looking to gain positions there. In fact, it's Radicic, and he has taken out some massive chunks of signage there, and almost...
Fortunately, they're only styrene, but he's gone off on the exit of turn 7.
Going, mate. You reckon you can keep going?
And he slid all the way down the front straight, grabbed a gear, the engine's still running, so we'll try and unravel what that was all about. Bright set a 62.59 on the opening lap, half a second margin as they crossed the line from Murphy, Ambrose, Stephen Richards.
Yeah, mate, just get a good feel for it, make sure nothing's damaged, and let me know.
Rick Kelly, Max Wilson, then Craig Lowndes, Paul Wheel, Craig Baird, Russell Ingall, Stevie Johnson, and Ingall down the inside here of Baird, puts a move on him and does a good job. Johnson tries to run with him, but he'll be on the wrong side of the road when they get to the left-hander at 6.
That elevates Greg Murphy to second place, of course.
Warren Luff was out in the grass there at the hairpin as well. You're seeing the cars move around in their more traditional manner now on that bump at turn 6. Now that the track's dry and the cars have got a full lateral load going through them, look at all that foam just getting dispersed across the track there. 57.7 for Bright on his first flying lap. 0.6 of a second is the margin. 57.8 for Murphy, 57.8 for Ambrose, 57.9 for Stevie Richards. Rick Kelly, Max Wilson. Here's the replay. Over the hill and onto the front straight, and has Paul run out of road? He does. He gets on the grass, just understeered a little wide, didn't hold line, got onto the grass, got sideways, and actually Richo almost went with him, and pretty lucky in many respects not to do more damage there given the speed. He's just brushed the wall with the back of the car, and you'd bless yourself after that one.
And you watch here, he gathers it up too just in time. There he is on the brakes. There's mud all over the tyres, and a very nervous Cameron McConville was coming through and quickly decided to take evasive action and get back into the pack. Campbell Little there having a very concerned look. That is not a good sign.
He's on the radio. I was in their garage just prior to the start of the race, and they had I don't even know what it was. There was all of a sudden a bit of a panic, and they dived under the bonnet. There was something that was loose that they were uncomfortable with. Obviously, so I'm just getting a word through that it's a flat tyre. It's nothing to do with any kind of an engine-related issue. So whatever that glitch was, they overcame. I can't pick a flat tyre out of all that at the moment. Some other suspension-related problem, perhaps.
Bit of a mystery here.
If actually heap of water on the screen.
Well, Scaife limping into the pits, and I was going to say Marcus Ambrose in the first race today gave Ford its first race victory here at Pukekohe.
It sounds strange, Billy. There's something weird when you listen to this thing.
Did you hear a rattling sound? I thought I heard that in the background, but I wasn't sure where that was coming from.
The boys will be on top of it, so we'll find out. Max Wilson in as well, so Triple Eight having a shocker in this second event after going so well, and the Brazilian expresses his extreme frustration.
Well, I think I know why. Those guys have been quick in all 3 rounds so far. Now, there's been word that both those drivers have made contact. As you can see, there's been contact with Craig Baird. And that may have had something to do with the damage sustained to Mark Scaife.
And These guys looking in the back of the Falcon, where there's fuel collector back here, often a lot of the electrics. So maybe looking at fuel pumps. And more trouble here. Luff's gone off with Porter down at turn 3, and that has buried the Shell Helix Falcon in the gravel, and he's nosed up next to the tyres there, and I doubt whether he'll be able to get out from that spot.
Another turnaround. Bradley is around and looks to have been very fortunate not to have been T-boned there in that traffic. He pauses and then turns it round, and another spin. It's Seaton this time. Or perhaps there's been something dumped on the track somewhere, or I can't see any obvious rain.
I was just looking out the window to see whether there's something that we're not picking up on, but Scape's also on the radio bluing about having a bent steering arm, and this is the battle first to second.
Murphy attacking Bright here.
And Ambrose is not letting him get too far out of his sights. Last time through it was 1.4 seconds between Bright and Murphy.
Richards is maintaining contact. There's a fairly obvious gap between Richards and Ambrose, but not irretrievable, that's for sure.
Safety car is going to be deployed, and it will pick up Jason Bright, just come into view shortly. So that'll be as a result. And bow off as well. There's so many cars falling off the road here. That's the exit of the hairpin. So the safety car has been deployed. That'll be due to the Warren Luff car being in the gravel down there at turn 4. Bowie gets back on again. And you'd have to think there's got to be something on the road for the number of guys that are getting in strife here.
Yeah, there's still no rain. It's obvious to me. So maybe somebody's dumped something on the track in one of those earlier incidents. Bright trying to keep the heat in the tyres as the field concertinas again. This is Bow being nudged here by Kelly, not literally, but under pressure. Ellery just off the circuit there in a bit of a clash with Brad Jones.
Porter got himself in strife here, so Luff really had nowhere to go, and he just had to drive to the sand trap to avoid contact. So innocent victim, poor old Mark Porter just got crossed up on the apex at turn 2. More replays here, we'll get some more answers. Oh no, Cito had to take evasive action because the two Larkham Motorsport cars were trying to have an accident.
And Bargwana came off seriously second best there. Winterbottom stayed on the track and Bargs ran right off it.
Have something that's happened up here. That's Ellery touching the back of Jones at the hairpin, so that explains that.
Tander hits Ellery ever so gently in the rear end.
And Scapes getting out of the car, I understand. We go racing once again. Green flags at the start-finish line. It's Jason Bright with the headlights ablaze. Murphy, Ambrose, Richards, Kelly. It's reinvigorated the race and compressed these guys.
Well, Rick Kelly's made some great gains, hasn't he? He's up there in the battle now. Richo taking the opportunity to put some pressure on Ambrose. Bright once again is showing good car speed, just putting a little bit of a gap in on Murphy.
They've been a real success story so far this year at PWR. They've adapted very quickly to the VY Commodore, and it's obviously got a lot of substantial differences in the front suspension. And they've made that car work very effectively right from the word go, as Tander puts a move on Steve Ellery and cleanly makes the manoeuvre. Side to side, Todd Kelly on the outside here with Simon Wills in 44, and he makes a good and very brave move there through the bump. The job done. Poor, very close to running out of road. You do not need to be 1 millimetre wider there, Todd.
One way to go, pal.
A little warning there from the pits too.
Yeah,
he was holding his breath, Todd Kelly.
The semi-nervous voice of Matthew Crawford on the radio. But it was a good move. But gee, wouldn't want it to have been any wider off the top of the hill there. The order at the moment is Bright, Murphy, Ambrose, Richards, Kelly, Wheel, Ingle, Lowndes, Johnson, Jason Richards, Todd Kelly, Simon Wills, Baird, Tander, Ellery, Morris, Longhurst, Winterbottom, McConville and Tratt. That's your top 20.
Closing in under brakes into the hairpin there. Murphy on the front runner Bright. Here's a better look at Richards from the back of Ambrose's car.
0.5 of a second was the margin between Bright and Murphy last time through. Fantastic spot to watch these cars in action over there between turns 6 and 7. Oh, Marcus crossed up, oversteer on the exit. The car just rattled across the bumps a little bit and it just got loose. Hangs onto it, but he cannot afford to do a Radisish there and run out of road.
And that is a pretty hairy part of the circuit, Neil. It seems that the guys are quite often having to, they set that whole thing up. If you don't get through the first two bends nicely, then that exit can catch you out approaching the start-finish line.
Well, the cars get this oscillation going between 6 and 7, and often, depending on the way in which you've got the shock absorbers mapped to the road, sometimes it's ongoing and they can literally bounce themselves out of position. And there's a lot of bumps at turn 7 as well, and it's very easy to find yourself picking up the throttle maybe a car length too early there, or half a car length and running out of road. Let's go down to the pit lane with Rusty.
Neil, the 888 car of Max Wilson has rejoined this race. When they were coming down pit lane, you saw them fishing through the boot of the car, looking around the fuel pumps and things like that. They thought it was a fuel-related issue. It's taken a bit of diagnosis, but they narrowed it down to an ignition coil. They've replaced it and sent the Brazilian back out on the track.
There's a lot of gear in the back of the cars to make for better weight distribution. It's also mounted low in the car to reduce the centre of gravity. So depending on which team, they've all got different stuff back there. In some case, there's the dry sump, the oil containers back there, the fuel collector, much of the electrics, and that's what all the activity was there at the back of the car, just trying to determine what the problem was. So that's good, but frustrating for them given the car speed shown by both guys in the opening race, but at least it's a bit of sugar. Good for them to get some points in that opening account. No doubt they'll bounce back again. This is starting to heat up. There's the bumps. So you've got to wait with the throttle quite a long time there, and then Russell gradually progresses it. You've got to come out to virtually zero throttle just before you turn right there.
Stephen Richards defending his position from Rick Kelly. Paul Wheel behind them, and Ingle, that inboard shot was showing his view of that battle.
Fourth position, Stephen Richards. 0.8 of a second behind Marcus Ambrose. And looking back towards Rick Kelly. The rev limiter protesting in the background there, and they go inside the 200-metre braking marker. Russell Ingle gnawing away on the back of Paul Wheel's car there as well. Greg, what can you tell us about this?
Some damage, Neil, to the driver's side and the rear of the car, as you can see there. Crew's putting the car up on the jacks. We might try and have a word with Jason Barguana and see if we can figure out what the problem is. Bargs, what's happened?
Well, it looks like what's happened, Rusty, is that as Ellery's turned Brad Jones around there, I was trying to get out of the way and I just got hit by Brad's car, and it feels like it's broken something in the rear of the car. We just tried to continue, but look, you know, it's probably better off saving it for the next one.
Rotten luck, mate. You had a good championship position coming into this round too.
Oh yeah, but you know, that's the game, isn't it?
Thanks, Bargs.
Thanks.
1 second is the margin between Bright and Murphy, and again Ingle has a look down the inside of Wheel.
Ambrose is losing touch with Murphy. 1.5 seconds now as we look further back through the field at that incident that Bargs was just talking about there. We saw the Ellery car just ahead of him, and he was turned around and had to wait for the traffic to go through.
So whatever was upsetting the back of his car could have been the trigger that brought he and Paul Morris together then.
Looking once again at this battle for 6th position. Paul Wheel holding off Russell Ingle.
Jason Bright's the only driver in this leading bunch at the moment in the 57s. Everybody else is in the either low to mid 58s, and some of them, once you get beyond about position 8, are getting to the high 58s and even low 59s. So he continues to show great speed, and his current pace is not much different from his peak pace. His fastest lap so far has been a 57.6. So great consistency from that car. It's looking after its rear tyres. It's reading the road well, and he's squeezing everything out of it.
There's Wheel's car in front of Russell's, and up ahead of them, Rick Kelly.
Ingle's just come off the back of a pretty successful test at Queensland Raceway with this car. And the speed this weekend's been pretty good. He was good in the dry at Eastern Creek, but in the wet, by his own admission, he just didn't have the pace, and he drifted quite badly away from the action. But this weekend the thing looks like it's been pretty reasonable, but he's fighting from a long way back. He and John Bowen got together in the first race, and whenever you're coming from behind, and Rusty spoke to him on the grid, it's always a tough battle. You can't give these top cars and top drivers any leeway because it's very difficult to get back.
Well, he said that test session at Willowbank was the best he's had yet with the Stone Brothers team in more than a year of racing with them. And here's an incident further back, Brad Jones, and just coming across him, David Bernard. What happens here? Bradley ever so gently kisses the back of Bernard's car. Incidentally, WPS expect to bring in their second car after the demise of the David Thexton franchise for the Hidden Valley race. So they expect to get that in pretty quickly. And of course, Mark Noske will get the chance behind the wheel there. So they've been looking for that opportunity for Mark for some time, and they reckon it'll be up for the next round, which is very pleasing from their point of view as Ingles slides into that.
They had a
right-hander.
Sorry, Billy, they had a test at Queensland Raceway as well, and they tried Charlie O'Brien, Alex Davison and John McIntyre in the car. So that team continues to make progress. 3.5 diff ratio in these cars at this track, so it's the middle diff ratio that's available to them here. And when they're on the rev limiter and you calculate the numbers, that's a top speed of 268 kilometres per hour at the end of the back straight, and there ain't no more. And quite a few of them been calling for a taller diff for this track because of the amount of time cars are spending at maximum RPM there.
That's a big booming back straight. And the margin between Bright and Murphy up the front has gone from 1.1 to 8.8 of a second.
The windscreen seal looks like it's popping out of the Murphmobile. Remember in the earlier race I mentioned that it had a crack in the screen, and that shot that I saw then didn't look like the crack was there, so I imagine they've changed the screens perhaps between races, and maybe the job wasn't completed quite to their quality control satisfaction. Is that the rubber or just one of the stickers? Might actually, in fact, I think it's only part of the, yeah, it's just a sticker.
Bit of sticker they've whacked across the top and it's just come loose.
It's race tape actually. Yeah, no big deal at the moment. Probably looks worse than it is. Kevin hiding under the helmet there.
They've pitched, these top two guys have
10
pitched...
to go, 10 laps to go.
Well, that saves us telling you. They've pitched nearly 3 seconds on Marcus Ambrose now. That gap has been widening for some time. And Stephen Richards, another 1.7. In fact, it's nearly 2 seconds now behind Ambrose. But I can tell you that Bright and Murphy are squeezing closer together. Murph has taken another 0.2 from that gap. So we could be in for a good finish here.
Billy just spoke with Brad Jones or Kim Jones, I should say, from Aussie Mail Racing about that incident involving John Bowen and Russell Ingall in the first race where Russell was unfortunately the victim of a concertina. When he got turned around, the officials did have a look at that incident, he says, but it was deemed a racing incident.
Well, Stephen Ellery now, the lapped car, has allowed Murphy to close up on the back of Bright as they wait for a way past. Looking back through the field here, Stephen Johnson. This is the battle around 8th through to 10th. In the middle of he and Todd Kelly is Jason Richards, and
that's Wills putting a move on Lowndes. What's going on there? Is there something leaking out of the back of the FPR Ford? I reckon that was fluid, and he's coming to the pit lane, and that thing's hemorrhaging, and it looks like game over for Lowndes. I was just about to make the comment, Billy, that he's drifting through the field, and he's just engaging the pit lane speed limiter there and checking his speed, loosening off the belts.
Well, I think it's...
And that forlorn look on his face, because obviously there's a problem and frustration for him. Great charge again in that first wet race.
Well, isn't it significant that after the great charge at Eastern Creek, he did it again here in the wet, but in the dry, he was basically just holding position in the race, wasn't he? Oh, there's Ellery off the track again as the two leaders finally undo themselves.
Actually, he was making room for these two guys, but ended up on the grass in doing so. And you can see the debris flag being shown there in the final corner as well. So there's more garbage on the road down here. Apart from mud and foam, there could be something else. And this is starting to heat up. Murphy's in good shape here. He's got closer. 0.28 is the official margin. You don't need to read that because you can see the gap. Super close now between these two guys. They've had some great battles over the years. Holden versus Holden.
Well, I think Murphy and about 10,000 Kiwi fans here would have just given Stephen Ellery a nod of appreciation for helping him close the gap. He was doing it before they came up on the lapped car, and here is the forlorn sight of the FPR crew. That's not the kind of power that they want to see pushing their cars in 2004. Ambrose now nearly 4 seconds behind these guys. Bear in mind they were held up a bit by Stephen Ellery, so right now quick.
Bridie's battling a little bit here now. He just couldn't quite get the nose of the car on the apex at turn 5, and Murphy's got just a whisker more pace at the moment. Not much in it, but it's enough to make Jason squeeze his thing that little bit too far, and you can see it beginning to slide around as Bright gets a little crossed up there in the final turn. And on that particular lap, 58.2 for Jason Bright, 58.4 for Greg Murphy, and 0.45 the margin at the start-finish line, so he opened it up ever so slightly.
We'll go back to the early laps, Neil, and the instruction was to save the rubber.
You need it at the back end of the race here, and the problem is that the left rear tyre frets badly at this racetrack because you're obviously constantly turning right.
Dark clouds still surrounding the circuit. They shouldn't affect this race, though. We've had a very lucky run here at Pukekohe, and it's hard to imagine the success that just keeps on for Greg Murphy. 4th in race 1. He will, it looks like, finish at least 2nd in race 2. What a battle this is.
One of the Team Dynamic cars in there. I can't pick which one it is yet, whether it's Will. No, it's Dale Breed in 45. Murphy's just beginning to get the benefit down the straight of the hole punched in the air by Jason Bright. But Brighty's got a bit more pace on him here, all through turn 1, it seems, perhaps through 2 and 3. Maybe getting his power to the road a little better out of 4, but that seems to be marginal. But Murphy is very strong when they get down to the bottom end of the braking area here. There's the order, the top 6, Bright, Murphy, Ambrose, Richards, Kelly and Wheel. It's heating up. We've got 5 laps to go.
Jason Bright told us after qualifying, don't believe HRT when they tell you that I have a more powerful car. He's doing all right, though, this weekend, holding on to his position from Greg Murphy, who's 4th in the championship. 5 laps to go. You heard the call from the pits.
He's sliding his car around just a little bit more at the moment, Jason Bright. And it's interesting to look at the seesaw here as the pressure is applied by both of them to each other in varying parts of the circuit. Let's go down to the pit lane with Greg Rust.
Well, Neil, Craig Lowndes is just taking off his helmet. He had kept all the gear on until just a few moments ago. The crew working frantically. You're a little despondent. The first thing they went for seemed to be the belt again.
Well, the alternator light come on the dash, so really we've just come straight in to see what it is, because we had the same problem in Adelaide. We cooked an engine, so if it is the belt, well, then I don't want to cook the engine because we want to try and save some of it.
What were the other vital signs like? Is it worse than you think?
I don't know. No, the car was running fine in the sense of engine-wise. We're still a little bit down on horsepower, but the car itself is fine for the way it was running. Just the alternator light come on the dash.
Thanks, Craig.
No worries.
And we saw evidence of fluids coming out of the back of that car when he was exiting the turn 5. So tough day for MPR, Cat Team and Craig Lowndes. Interesting to look at Murphy putting the pressure on at the end of the back straight here. The last couple of times he's had the rear brakes all but locked on the Kmart entry and has basically go-karted and slid the car in there. He's getting close, and this is a great scrap between these two blokes as well. So both Kmart cars are buying into this little action here, and Stevie Richards is continuing to build a great points bank in this championship.
Here we go with another look further back as Brad Jones has been in trouble all the way, but it's not Bradley. In fact, this is why Dale Breed was back in the pits, I suspect, after coming off. So our apologies to Brad there, as he was the first car we got to look at when we went to the replay, and Dumbrell has turned around. Stephen Johnson's back there. I think Warren Luff left the race, didn't he? So I think that was Junior there. And Dumbrell struggles back onto the track. Here's Richards defending his position against Rick Kelly.
Gee, Stephen's car got very violently sideways there.
This section of the track is awesome to watch, Neil. The way they get through that, the S's there is quite amazing. And then you watch them and see how well they get onto the main straight. It's been a compromise set up across the practice sessions.
0.68 of a second between Bright and Murphy. So the two of them are just holding station at the moment. Bright, Murphy, Ambrose, Richards, Kelly, Wheel, Ingle, Johnson, Jason Richards, Todd Kelly. That's the top 10. Just outside it, Tander, Wills, Longhurst, who's made a bit of a recovery from poor qualifying this weekend. Winterbottom, Morris, Radisish, Baird, McConville, Tratt and Brad Jones 20th.
Well, when you split the points up, Neil, across 3 races, as we see Rick, well, he's going to contradict what I was about to say, Rick Kelly's having a good go at Stephen Richards here. I was just about to say that with a couple of laps to go, with such a little margin between positions, would they want to take a risk? I mean, this has been debated since this point system came in. It's one thing saying that 6 points between first and second is not enough, and that goes on through the field. But when you break it up into 3 races, you start asking the question, is it worth fighting for? But Rick Kelly has just answered that, I think.
Everybody in this business always wants one better position, everybody other than the leader. That's the nature of the game. I mean, they just push hard, but in my opinion, and it's certainly shared by the vast majority of drivers, there's not a lot of fans for the narrow weighting of points between these top positions. But the offside, or the upside to that, is that you get a question mark over the series outcome for much longer. It takes a long time through the year for the series to fully unfold, and therefore you don't end up declaring a winner too early, and that keeps everybody's interest. Oh, look at Stephen Richards, rear brakes locked. He's gonna drop a position here. Does he spin? No, he keeps it on the road, but Rick Kelly gets through, and Richo with the rear tyres a bit sad now, vulnerable to Paul Wheel as well.
Yes, and Russell Ingall. It's always that moment of composure there, isn't there, Neil, after you have those a little off or a near off, and he's very exposed now to Wheel as well. Up ahead, you might have noticed in the earlier shot that Brighton Murphy are having a good dice, but they're holding that position. Marcus Ambrose, a pretty lonely race for him. He's distant from them, but comfortably ahead of this battle here with Kelly, Richards and company.
You may wonder why you have a situation where you can lock the rears like that. It's just due to rear tyre degradation, and it's not something you can necessarily dial out with the brake bias control.
So we have the word from the pits that Lowndes is going to be sent back out again so he can be classified as a finisher in this race. Don't forget, we are building to the 3rd race this afternoon as Bright just cranks it up a little bit. He's packed in about 2/10 on the previous margin with Murphy. And this is a victory for Jason Bright in race 2. Greg Murphy has picked his way forward.
Fantastic effort, Brighty. Great job, mate. Great job.
And Marcus Ambrose, the winner of race 1, takes 3rd in race 2. And what a battle this. Kelly comes through ahead of Richards. Wheel tried to make a lunge. Then there was Ingall.
It was a great job, wasn't it, from Jason Bright? It looked like he was going to fall to Greg Murphy there at one point, and he lifted his game right at the end. He slid the car around a little bit more, and he withstood the pressure, and the two acknowledge each other, and very, very good pressure motor racing from both of them, and nobody blinked.
Good, clean racing.
Ambrose is now the leader of the championship by virtue of his 3rd position.
But it can't be by much. It's very tight at the top here.
Here's the replay of Stephen getting in very deep into turn 5, and on the surface change where it's slipperier, the car just does not maintain adhesion, locks the rear brakes, gets a bit crossed up, gathered it up beautifully and hung on.
Yeah, could have been a lot more damage there, couldn't there, if he had got those 2 left wheels on the grass. Now, Bright Murphy, Marcus Ambrose, Kelly, Stephen Richards, Paul Wheel, Ingall up to 7th now. He's fought hard, hasn't he? Stephen Johnson, Jason Richards in the top 10 with Todd Kelly saving some face for the Holden Racing team. Garth Tander has also moved forward from his position earlier in the day. In fact, he was 28th in the first race, so that's a good comeback for him. Longhurst, 13th in this race, and that is a very good effort indeed. Pretty soon, we'll have some more interesting stuff for you, and then race 3.